Emeka Nwachukwu sat in his lecky office, the curtains drawn against the harsh afternoon sun. On his mahogany desk, beside his laptop and stacks of investment reports, lay 2 cruise tickets embossed with golden lettering. Majestic Horizon, Lagos to Barcelona. His heart raced each time his eyes returned to them. They were more than paper. To him, they were a key, an escape hatch. For months, Emeka had been suffocating in his marriage. Kaioma, his wife of 10 years, was loyal, devoted, and respected in their social circle. But to Emeka, loyalty had become boring. He craved excitement, the thrill of newness, the fire that had long gone cold in their bedroom. Sade, his mistress, provided exactly that. With her laughter that sparkled like champagne and her daring confidence, she reminded him of the man he used to be, adventurous, bold, desired. The plan was simple. He had told Kaioma he was heading to Abuja for a week-long business retreat. He even arranged a fake agenda with his secretary, complete with meeting schedules and hotel bookings, to cover his tracks. Kaioma had kissed him goodbye at the door that morning, whispering prayers for his success. She had no idea he would be boarding a ship with another woman by evening. As he adjusted his wristwatch and leaned back, Emeka let himself imagine it. Walking along the deck in crisp linen, Sade at his side in a silk gown, both of them sipping champagne under the stars. Nobody to question him, nobody to tie him down. For once, he would breathe freely. But even as a fantasy swelled in his mind, unease clawed at the edges. He pushed it down. This was his time. Nothing could touch him at sea, or so he believed. The Apapa port buzzed with life, filled with travelers dragging suitcases and snapping selfies. At the center of it all, Sade made her entrance. Heads turned as if commanded. She wore a flowing anchor gown with golden embroidery, her makeup flawless, her smile dazzling. When she spotted Emeka waiting near the check-in line, she waved dramatically. He couldn't help but grin. Sade wasn't just beautiful, she was magnetic. Sliding her arm into his, she whispered, "Finally, it's just us. No interruptions." At check-in, Emeka proudly introduced her as Mrs. Nwachukwu. The attendant nodded politely, but the title rolled off Emeka's tongue with a forbidden thrill. To him, the lie tasted sweeter than truth. On the ship, they settled into their lavish cabin. King-size bed, ocean view, champagne on ice. Sade squealed with delight, recording a video for her private friend group. "See me, cruising with my man." Later that evening, they joined the welcome dinner. Emeka wore a white agbada. Sade glittered in sequins. They looked every inch the power couple. Cameras flashed, passengers complimented them. Emeka felt invincible, until he caught the eyes of an older Nigerian couple across the room. They whispered to each other, glancing at him. Emeka recognized them faintly. He had seen them once at a Lagos charity event with Kaioma. His stomach tightened. Sade noticed too. She pressed her hand against his and whispered, "Ignore them. They don't matter." But Emeka knew they did. Lagos was a small world, and gossip was a tide that never stayed ashore. By the second day at sea, Emeka was convinced the ocean had washed his worries away. He strolled the deck with Sade, arm in arm, the salty breeze tousling his hair. They clinked glasses at the ship's open-air bar, laughing louder than necessary. For a few hours, he believed he had escaped. But whispers have a way of traveling faster than sound. At breakfast, a young man from Suilir stopped by their table. "Ah, sir, you don't remember me? I worked under your cousin last year." He greeted politely, then glanced at Sade. "And madam, good morning. Where's your wife? She no follow you." Emeka forced a chuckle. "She's busy with her foundation. Couldn't make it." The young man nodded but raised a brow that lingered a second too long. Later, as they lounged by the pool, Emeka overheard a pair of passengers muttering in Yoruba. "That one? His real wife is in Lagos. This is another woman. Nawao." Sade noticed the stares too. Her smile faltered, though she quickly masked it. "Don't mind them," she whispered. But deep down, she worried. She had always enjoyed the thrill of being the hidden woman, but now she was too exposed. On this ship, everyone was watching. Emeka tightened his grip on her hand. For the first time, freedom began to feel like a fragile illusion. In Lagos, Kyoma sat at a dressing table, her phone buzzing with a message that turned her world upside down. Do you know where your husband really is? Attached was a photo, Emeka boarding the cruise ship, Sade clinging to his arm, Kyoma's breath caught in her throat. Her hands trembled so violently that she almost dropped the phone. For minutes, she stared blankly at the image. Denial wrestled with fury. No, not Emeka. He wouldn't. But she knew better. Over the years, she had sensed shifts in his behavior, the late nights, the secretive calls, the scent of unfamiliar perfume. She had ignored them, praying her loyalty would anchor him. But this was a final betrayal. Kyoma didn't scream or cry. She didn't call him to demand explanations. Instead, she moved with a calm that scared even her. She opened her laptop, searched for available tickets, and booked a spot on the majestic horizon. If Emeka thought he could bury his lies at sea, she would drag them into the light. As she zipped her suitcase, she whispered to herself, "Let him laugh now. Let him taste freedom. He has no idea who's about to join him." Captain Adeli Oladipo stood on the bridge, scanning the horizon with practiced eyes. He was a man of order, respected by his crew, and feared by those who broke the rules. To him, a ship was sacred, a floating city where integrity mattered. That evening, as he reviewed the passenger list, one entry made him pause. Mr. Emeka Nwachukwu and Mrs. Sade Nwachukwu. He frowned. He had attended a Lagos fundraiser only months ago where he met Kyoma Nwachukwu, Emeka's elegant wife. This woman on the list was not her. Curiosity sharpened his gaze. He observed them during the evening gala, Emeka parading like a peacock, Sade clinging to his arm, laughing too loudly. To others, they looked glamorous. To Adeli, they looked suspicious. Later, as he made his rounds, he overheard whispers among Nigerian passengers. "That's not his wife. Kyoma deserves better." The words confirmed his instincts. Captain Adeli was not a man to meddle in personal affairs, but something about this situation stirred him. He felt protective of Kyoma's honor. Lies had no place on his ship. He kept silent, for now, but his eyes followed Emeka like shadows. He knew the sea always revealed the truth, and when it did, it drowned the guilty. By the third evening on the majestic horizon, Emeka felt like a king. The ocean stretched endlessly around him, and every worry from Lagos seemed swallowed by the waves. At dinner, he ordered the most expensive wine, joking loudly with other passengers. Sade, dazzling in a crimson sequin gown, drew envious glances. They danced under the stars of the open-deck party, bodies close, music loud, laughter spilling between them. Emeka felt untouchable, like the universe had conspired to gift him this stolen joy. But freedom came at a cost. Each time he caught Captain Adelek's eyes from across the deck, something inside him tightened. The man didn't smile. He didn't look away. His gaze was steady, almost judicial, as though silently weighing Emeka's soul. Sade noticed. "Why does that captain keep staring at us?" she asked, her tone sharp. Emeka forced a laugh. "Paranoia. He's just doing his job." But even as he said it, unease gnawed at him. The music no longer sounded as sweet. The champagne no longer tasted as rich. And though he held Sade close, he couldn't shake the sense that freedom was starting to feel like a prison of its own. Meanwhile, Kyoma stepped aboard quietly, blending in among tourists. She wore a simple anchor blouse, her jewel tied modestly, her suitcase small. To anyone watching, she was just another traveler, unremarkable. But inside, her heart thundered. Each corner of the ship felt like a battlefield. Would she run into him immediately? Would she see him laughing with her replacement? She decided against confronting him right away. Instead, she wanted to see the truth with her own eyes. She wandered the deck, scanning faces, until she froze. There he was, Emeka, her husband, in a tailored agbada, smiling as though joy had never left him. And beside him, clinging to his arm, was Sade, youthful, flamboyant, confident in her stolen place. Kyoma's throat tightened. For a moment, she couldn't breathe. She thought of the night she had cooked for him, the prayers she had whispered over him, the loyalty she had given him without condition. All wasted, all betrayed. But then, her tears dried as resolve took root. She would not storm across the deck. Not yet. No, exposure needed witnesses. And on a ship like this, there were hundreds. Later that evening, Kyoma slipped into the private lounge reserved for VIP guests. She hadn't come to socialize, but fate guided her path. Captain Adelik entered, his presence commanding. Their eyes met, and recognition flashed across his face. "Mrs. Nwachukwu," he said in surprise. Kyoma straightened, her dignity intact though her heart quivered. "Captain, I did not expect to be recognized." "I know your husband is here," Adelik said, his voice low but firm. "But the woman at his side, she is not you." For a moment, Kyoma felt exposed, ashamed even. But the captain's gaze wasn't mocking. It was protective. "You don't need to tell me everything," he continued. "But I must warn you, on a ship like this, secrets are waves. They spread, they crash. You cannot hide them forever." Kyoma swallowed hard. "I don't intend to hide. I came to see with my own eyes. And when the moment is right, I will not be silent." Adelik nodded, his respect clear. "Then you will have my support. The sea has a way of revealing truth. Trust it." For the first time since boarding, Kyoma felt less alone. On the fourth night, the ocean grew restless. Clouds swallowed the stars, and winds howled across the decks. Passengers clutched railings as waves tossed the ship. Emeka staggered as he tried to lead Sade back to their cabin. She clung to him, shrieking whenever thunder cracked overhead. Crew members rushed to calm panicked tourists, but Emeka focused only on shielding Sade. Unseen in the chaos, Kyoma stood near the stairwell, her hair whipping in the wind, watching. The man who had once sworn to protect her now held another woman, as if his life depended on it. The sight was like salt in an open wound. Every memory of their vows, their first dance, their shared struggles, replaced by this moment of betrayal. Yet, instead of breaking her, it steeled her resolve. If she had doubted before, she no longer did. Emeka had chosen his mistress openly, and soon she would choose a place where his mask would be ripped off. As lightning split the sky, Captain Adelek's voice boomed over the intercom. "Remain calm. Stay in your cabins. The storm will pass." But in his private thoughts, he knew another kind of storm was brewing, and it had nothing to do with the weather. The storm subsided by morning, but tension still hung in the air. Emeka tried to shake off his unease by ordering an extravagant breakfast for Sade in their suite. She laughed and fed him strawberries, but he couldn't forget the way some passengers had stared at them last night. Meanwhile, Kyoma received a discreet invitation slipped under her door. Dinner with the captain. Tonight. Private. When she arrived, the room was quiet, lit by candles, the hum of the ship's engine steady beneath them. Captain Adelik stood tall, his expression grave. "I will not interfere in your personal life," he began, "but I cannot allow my ship to be a stage for lies. Too many eyes are watching, too many whispers already." Kyoma folded her hands in her lap, her voice calm. "I did not come to cause chaos. I came for truth. My husband believes he has escaped me, but he has only trapped himself." The captain nodded. "Then let the sea bear witness. At the gala tomorrow night, every passenger will be gathered. It will be the perfect place. If you wish, I will stand with you." For a moment, silence stretched between them, heavy with meaning. Finally, Kyoma said softly, "Do it. Let the truth drown his lies." And in that candlelit room, an alliance was formed. The majestic horizon glittered that evening. The grand ballroom, usually quiet, had been transformed into a paradise of lights, velvet drapes, and golden chandeliers swaying gently with the ship's rhythm. It was the annual masquerade gala, the highlight of the cruise, where every passenger wore masks, gowns, and tuxedos in a dazzling display of wealth and sophistication. Emeka stood before the mirror in his suite, adjusting his embroidered agbada. His heart swelled with pride. Tonight, he would rule the room. Sade twirled beside him in a gown of shimmering emerald silk, her mask adorned with crystals. She looked like a queen, and Emeka beamed to the illusion they projected. As they descended the grand staircase into the ballroom, heads turned. Passengers clapped politely, some even snapping pictures. Emeka whispered to Sade, "Do you see? They envy us." But envy was not what lingered in the eyes of many. It was curiosity, disapproval, suspicion. Lagos people had long memories, and tongues moved faster than feet. Across the room, Kyoma watched silently, her mask hiding the storm in her eyes. She had chosen a simple but regal lace gown, ivory white, her geo-style with precision. To strangers, she was simply another masked guest. But soon, her mask would be her weapon, and a revelation would shatter Emika's world. When the music quieted, Captain Adelik took the stage. His uniform shone under the chandeliers, his presence commanding silence. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, his deep voice steady, "tonight we celebrate unity, elegance, and truth. But truth," he paused, his eyes scanning the room, "is not always what it seems." Emika stiffened. His wine glass trembled slightly in his hand. The captain continued, "Allow me to introduce a very special guest, one who deserves recognition, honor, and respect." At his signal, the spotlight shifted, sweeping across the room until it landed on Kyoma. Slowly, she removed her mask, her gaze piercing straight into Emika's. Gasps filled the hall. Phones lifted instantly, recording. "This," the captain said firmly, "is Mrs. Kyoma Nwachukwu, the true wife of Mr. Emeka Nwachukwu." The ballroom erupted. Whispers turned to shouts, guests spinning to stare at Emika and the glittering woman clinging to his arm. Sade froze, her smile collapsing. Emika felt his blood turn to ice. Time seemed to stop. Emika's glass slipped from his hand and shattered on the marble floor, the sound echoing louder than the orchestra ever could. His jaw opened, but no words came. All around him, guests murmured, "Ha! That's not his wife." Scandal. And on a cruise. Poor Kyoma, see how he disgraced her. Sade's hand shook as she pulled away from Emika. "You said she would never find out," she hissed, her eyes wide with panic. Kyoma stood tall, her dignity unshaken. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't cry. She simply looked at her husband with an expression that burned hotter than any slap. "Emika," she said quietly, but everyone heard her. "You thought the sea would hide you, but even the ocean spits out filth." Emika staggered forward, reaching out as though he could undo what had been revealed. But the world had already shifted. His freedom had crumbled. His lies had drowned. And for the first time, he realized he was utterly powerless. The gala dissolved into chaos. Guests pulled out their phones, some pretending to hide their recordings while others brazenly streamed live. Within minutes, videos of the scandal spread across social media, hashtags blooming like wildfire. #cruise scandal, #real Mrs. Nwachukwu, #mistress exposed. Emika's attempt to explain were drowned by laughter and gasps. "Please, my people, it's not what it looks like," he began, but his voice cracked, his excuses pathetic. Kyoma raised a hand, silencing him with a single gesture. "You said you were in Abuja. You said you were working. You said you were a man of honor. Tell me, Emika was at Abuja." She pointed at Sade, trembling beside him. The crowd erupted in jeers. Sade broke free, her voice sharp with rage. "You promised me, Emika. You said she wouldn't be here." She turned on him, her humiliation spilling over, before storming out of the ballroom. Emika stood alone, stripped of dignity. He looked to Kyoma, desperate for rescue. But she turned her back, walking toward the captain, who stood firm at her side. And that image, his wife leaving him for the moral authority of another man, seared into Emika's soul like fire. Outside the ballroom, Sade's fury ignited. She ripped off her mask, her heels clattering against the deck as she stormed into the night air. Tay streaked her makeup, but her pride burned hotter than her shame. "How dare you!" she screamed into the empty sky, clutching the railing. "How dare you disgrace me like this, Emika?" She replayed his promises in her mind. "You'll be my wife soon. Kyoma will never find out. You're the one I love." Lies, all of it. Passengers passed by, whispering, pointing, recording her meltdown. She shoved them aside. "Leave me alone," she shrieked, her voice echoing across the waves. Inside, Emika searched frantically for her, but no one would tell him where she had gone. Even those who had once laughed at his jokes now avoided him like a curse. His illusion of power had vanished, and all that remained was shame. Sade finally collapsed into a chair on the deserted deck, sobbing into her hands. But even in her pain, one thought remained. If Emeka could betray his wife so publicly, then he could betray her too. And that realization turned her heartbreak into hatred. The ballroom was still buzzing when Emeka slipped out into the night. The ocean was calm again, moonlight shimmering across endless waves. He found Kaoma standing by the railing, her white gown glowing in the silver light, her jewels slightly loosened by the sea breeze. "Kaoma," he whispered, his voice breaking. "Please, let me explain." She turned slowly, her face unreadable. For years, she had wept in silence at home, hiding her pain behind smiles at social functions. But tonight, something had changed. Her silence had become strength. "Explain," she said, her tone calm but sharp enough to cut. "Was it Abuja you explained to me? Was it your late nights and perfume that you explained? Or is it this," she gestured toward the ballroom, where whispers still floated through the open doors, "that you wish to explain?" Emeka dropped to his knees, tears welling. "I made mistakes. Kaoma, I was weak. But I love you. You're my wife, my only true wife." Kaoma shook her head. "Love is not chains. Emeka, you did not love me. You shackled me with lies. Tonight, you set me free." For the first time in their marriage, Emeka realized the power had shifted. He was no longer the husband in control. He was a guilty man begging before a woman who had reclaimed her dignity. The next morning, Emeka dragged himself to the captain's quarters. His eyes were swollen from a sleepless night. His once proud shoulders slumped. "Captain Adelik," he pleaded, "please, help me. Talk to Kaoma for me. She respects you. Maybe if you speak to her." But Adelik cut him off, his voice down. "Mr. Nwachukwu, the sea does not lie. It strips men bare, leaving only truth. You came here to escape your wife, and yet it is here that you met her. That is no accident." Emeka bowed his head in shame. I thought I could control it. I thought nobody would know." The captain leaned forward. "A man's honor is like this ship. If one part is compromised, the whole vessel is at risk of sinking. You thought your lives were private, but look around. Your shame belongs to the world now." Emeka wept openly. For once, he could no longer spin excuses. Adelik placed a firm hand on his shoulder. "You still have a choice. Dignity in admitting your failure, or further disgrace in denying it. But remember, your wife's silence has more weight than your cries. She is stronger than you realize." And with that, the captain dismissed him, leaving Emeka to confront a truth harsher than the waves. His greatest battle was already lost. While Emeka hid in his cabin, Kaoma walked the decks with her head held high. Passengers who once whispered pity now approached her with admiration. "You're so strong," one woman said. "You deserve better," murmured another. Even strangers from different countries shook her hand, praising her dignity. Kaoma smiled politely, though inside she was still bleeding. Betrayal hurt, but for the first time she realized she wasn't a victim. She was a survivor. She attended breakfast alone in the grand dining hall, dressed in a sky-blue lace gown. Heads turned, not with pity, but with respect. Cameras flashed. On social media, hashtags shifted from mocking Emeka to celebrating Kaoma. #StrongQueen, #Come the real wife, #Dignity on deck. In the quiet of her cabin, she allowed herself one night of tears. But even then, she whispered, "I will not let this destroy me. I will rise." Her pain became her fuel, and each step she took across that ship was a declaration that she was no longer bound to her husband's shame. When the majestic horizon docked back in Lagos, the crowd waiting to port wasn't just families and friends. It was journalists, bloggers, and curious onlookers hungry for gossip. Word of the scandal had spread far beyond the ship. Kaoma disembarked first, regal as ever, escorted by Captain Adelik. Cameras flashed wildly, reporters shouting her name. She said nothing, only waved gracefully. In silence, she communicated what words could not: strength, dignity, and survival. Emeka followed behind, his face pale, his clothes rumpled. The same cameras that adored Kaoma turned on him with merciless questions. Mr. Nwachukwu, who is Sade? Is your marriage over? Do you regret your actions? He muttered weakly. No comment, but the damage was irreversible. His business partners, watching the news, quietly withdrew deals. His name, once associated with success, now dripped with scandal. Kyoma, however, walked into waiting cars of family and friends, embraced like a hero. She had been betrayed, but she returned stronger. Emeka had sought freedom, but it was Kyoma who found it. Weeks later, in a Lagos courtroom, Kyoma stood tall before the judge. Her lawyer read out her divorce petition, citing adultery, humiliation, and betrayal. Emeka sat slumped in the corner, his once proud eyes hollow. When the judge asked if she wished to reconcile, Kyoma spoke clearly. I release myself from chains disguised as love. I choose dignity over deceit. I choose freedom. The gavel struck. The marriage was dissolved. Outside the court, reporters swarmed, but Kyoma addressed them with grace. This is not the end. It is a beginning. To every woman betrayed, know this, your pain is not your prison. You can rise. Her words went viral, shared across social media, turning her from a victim into an icon. Emeka, meanwhile, disappeared into obscurity, abandoned by both mistress and allies. That night, Captain Adelik sent her a single message. The sea always reveals truth, and it has revealed your strength. Kyoma looked out of her window at the Lagos skyline, tears in her eyes, but this time they were tears of freedom. She was no longer the woman defined by her husband's lies. She was her own story.